Hey everybody out there, my name is Dragnix and this is Brushwood Buddies. $2.99 came out in the Steam store today. It is a puzzle resource management game involving crafting. Now it's very similar to games like March of Industry, and if you saw my March of Industry video over at TechRaptor, you probably have low expectations for this game. Well, hold on a second. While March of Industry has a lot of problems, Brushwood Buddies does a lot of things right. It does some things wrong, but overall for the price tag, I think it's a game that's worthwhile from the puzzle element of it. So let's take a look. But before I begin, this key was obtained from the developer for the purposes of review. That won't change my opinion in the end, but you should know that because of FTC guidelines, as well as the whole morals thing, you know? Let's start with the campaign. Now, in the campaign, you have one specific mission to make a specific item. In the bottom right corner there, next to the rock, is a slingshot, and that is my goal to make for this level. In this scenario, I need leather and a rope to make a slingshot, but in order to make that leather, I'll need a campfire and some hide. And then I go deeper and deeper. How do I make the hide? How do I make the campfire? So on and so forth, until I get to the base ingredients. Once I understand exactly what I need to make, I can go to the field and actually craft the materials in question. So for example, for this rock, if I craft this rock, I could either get flint or a grindstone, depending on a random chance. Now I will need both, so I grind it and I get flint. Okay, good. Now I go to that rock over there and I craft it hoping for a grindstone. Now this run isn't going so well because I keep on getting flint. Well, the thing is that I can actually destroy a material and try again. That does have a consequence, which I will get to later on, but I can keep on trying in order to get the actual ingredient that I need. Now luckily, after this final attempt, I am able to get a grindstone. Now I can take two materials and actually craft them together as well. So for example, I take this grindstone and this flint here, and I make a sharpened flint, which I need for my knife. Then I take this stick, combine it with the sharpened flint, and I get my knife. Excellent. Alright, you're saying to yourself, Dragnix, I've seen crafting mini games before. How is this any different? Well, the differences here are very subtle, but they are very, very important to the puzzle mechanics of the game. And it has to do with the finite resources on screen along with your buddy that you're crafting with. Let's start with the finite resources first. You play the game on a 4x3 grid, and each area is associated with a specific material. For example, the forest will probably give you sticks and apples, while the rock formation will give you the flint and the grindstone in question. In some cases, you can destroy the material on a specific location and actually get an entirely different material in question, like destroying a gravestone and all of a sudden a rock popping up, meaning that different materials are available to you. What the player has to be aware of is the fact that certain materials and the items that you create on the actual location themselves. So once you've got, like, let's say the scythe where the little guy is on the bottom there, I can't really use that material again until I destroy that item. And so if I really need that resource, I'm in a little bit of a pickle. And that's where the puzzle element comes from. The fact is that there are only certain configurations that will work so that you have access to the materials that you need to upgrade the next item. So you have to be very careful of where you make an item and where your guys are when you create the item in question. This works rather well, actually. The thing is that there will be certain locations that you will use a resource in one case, and then you will realize that using the specific resource there actually doesn't help you in the long run. So you have to step back, destroy everything, and start again. So in this scenario, I finally get the last mechanics together. I take this rope, I combine it with a leather to make my slingshot, and lo and behold, everything is good. The other part of the equation are your helpers, the little ghost on the top left and the white guy in the middle. Now they have a happiness to them, and if they're not happy, they won't craft with you. Now each of them have their own little characteristics and quirks, and in order to make them happy, you have to either destroy or make certain items. For example, the white guy in the middle loves it when you make apples, so if you make an apple, he'll become a little bit more happy, and then you'll be able to craft with him again. This adds another layer to the complexity of the resource management system. Sure, that tree may be able to make the apple to make people happy, but the thing is, that also may be needed to actually craft the item in order to complete the level. Again, this is a very good system in that way. There's just one little problem with it. And that little problem has to do with random chance. When crafting or destroying a material that has multiple options for what it could create, if you don't get what you need, you may have actually hurt your happiness of your fellow crafters. And at that point, it becomes a cycle. Okay, now I gotta go make them happy, and then try again. And hopefully it works this time. If it doesn't, well, I'm back into the cycle at that point. And that can become a long cycle if you have a long string of bad luck. And that does make me wonder if the random mechanic is good for the game in the long haul. The fact is that due to the resource management element and the limited resources in question, with certain locations giving certain materials, you will still have to deal with the happiness mechanic as you try the different configurations over and over again. The random mechanic seems to just elongate it, and I'm not exactly sure that's good game design at this point. I feel like choosing which material that you get would be a better option in the big picture. Now, luckily the game does guide you in several ways because the solution isn't necessarily obvious at times. Now, for the treasure that I need to make, I need a burial mound and a key in question. The thing is that the materials needed to make it aren't necessarily on the field here. The thing is that the different combinations, I run out of materials. But that chitin material at the top, it's giving me a hint that I actually need to make that because the trader's on the field and I can trade the chitin material for the key in question in order for me to move on. That bar can have multiple items on it telling you exactly what order you should do things in as well. Yeah, sure, I can make the slingshot at any time, but I may need a certain resource that the slingshot will be in order to create the campfire early on, and that's the only way to make the campfire. For me, it was a good job by the developer of giving a hint without, throwing it in your face, like follow this specific guideline. You can still make certain configurations work even not following that guide, but the thing is that it does help those people who are stuck realize that, oh, wait a minute, maybe I need to try something completely different. Now, luckily, unlike games like March of Industry, this game does seem to have the content here. There are a significant amount of recipes, and based on the developer's Twitter handle, it will take about 4 to 6 hours in order to complete the main campaign, which is reasonable for a game of $3 in question. And based on my time with the game, that 4 to 6 estimate seems about right. Control-wise, I find the mouse controls to be rather good, in particular with the small additions. Things like the spacebar crafting and the mouse wheel automatically destroying. That's rather nice, in fact. Those are little touches that make the game a little bit easier, and while the game is mouse-driven, I just found it easy to destroy, easy to create, and it shows through in the time modes in particular, where you're trying to craft things rather quickly, and the only limitation is your brain in that case. Now, the game is aesthetically pleasing. I do like the cute little creatures on screen. It does have a little bit of a charm to it, but I want to talk a little bit about the UI, because this could be a little bit decisive for certain people. Now, the UI in screens like this, it works rather nicely. It's clean, it's crisp, and it doesn't get in the way. But on screens like this, yeah, I don't understand why it's not taking up more of the screen. They're very, very small buttons, and in particular with the options menu, there's just a lot more screen space that you could have used in order to give that information to the user. By the way, for a small indie game, there's a lot of options here, and I have to give the developer credit for that. I can configure a lot of things about this game, even a specific resolution, which is nice. On top of the campaign mode, you have a challenge mode, which has 2 types of challenges. First is the timed one, and I don't really see the benefit of it. It's basically throwing things on the screen and clicking on them, hoping they combine in a very, very quick manner. It doesn't go with the game's flow. I feel like the game is more suited towards intelligent thinking and real resource management. It just feels like a click-a-thon at that point. But on the opposite side of that, you have the discard mode. Discard mode basically says that you have X amount of discards, aka destroying of materials, that you can do. And I like this one because it really takes into account the resource management again. You have to be really considerate of, okay, this material will combine with this, but then I won't be able to use that one. And you want to find the best combinations to make the biggest point gainers in the end. One final note I want to make regarding the recipe screen. Players who forget rather easily will find this game frustrating because you'll have to keep on going back to this menu and digging down over and over and over again. Okay, how do I make that scythe that I need to make the bow and arrow in question? The thing is that there's a lot of unused space on the main game screen, and part of me wonders if there couldn't have been a favorite system to put that information of that specific recipe on the side for a reference. The addition of that feature wouldn't necessarily take away from the game. For players who didn't want to use that system, they could easily play the game as it is right now, and even to the point of just experimenting with things. Which, by the way, I would add an experimental mode into this game, aka a free mode. Just allow the player to do what they want, craft anything together in a sort of sandbox mode. Overall, Brushwood Buddies does the job in the puzzle genre at its price. In fact, it's probably one of the best values at the price of $3 for games of that cheap nature. It's a good puzzle game, it will test your mind, and it will give you that aha moment that, okay, I've been struggling with this over and over again, I can't see the solution, but once you do, you'll feel accomplished and it will just sort of raise your spirits for the rest of the day. The game also seems to have a bright future, as there seems to be mod support based on the options menu. I don't necessarily know if the mod support will be there day one, but based on the options there, yeah, it seems like there will be additions that you can add to the game to maybe make your own materials, for example. Alright, this is Dragnix signing out. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take a look at Brushwood Buddies, and keep on gaming. The next game that I will be covering is Prospect. Expect that in the next day or two. I have started it. It's just a little bit longer in terms of the review content in question. Alright, see you later. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, hit that like button. Maybe share it with a friend. I write an appropriate Steam review that you can find in the description below for games on Steam, and I'll respond to any comments below regarding questions about the game and feedback about the video. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button, and you can check out my last video in the top left and a related video in the top right. You want to keep this channel running as well? Then consider supporting my work on Patreon, which you can find in the description below, along with my Google